Have you noticed that life seems to hand you the same lesson over and over again? Different people, different jobs, different friendships, different relationships, yet somehow the pain feels familiar. And you tell yourself, this time it's different. But months later, you're thinking, how did I end up here again? Maybe it's rejection. Maybe it's abandonment. Maybe it's never feeling good enough. Maybe it's constantly trying to earn love. The names change, the scenery changes, but the emotional experience doesn't. Today, I want to show you something that completely changed the way that I see suffering. Because most people think that they're reliving the past. I don't think that that's what's happening. I think that we're reliving a story. And once you change the story, your entire future begins to change. Pain wants familiarity. One of the hardest truths I've learned is this. Our nervous system often chooses familiar pain over unfamiliar peace. Let me say that again. Our nervous system often chooses familiar pain over unfamiliar peace. That sounds crazy, right? Until you realize how many people stay in situations they have already outgrown. Not because they're enjoying the suffering, but because suffering feels known. The brain loves prediction. If it knows what comes next, it feels safe, even if what comes next hurts. That's why people recreate dynamics they swore they'd never experience again. It's rarely conscious. They're trying to solve yesterday's pain with today's people. And let me share a personal story. I started noticing something in my own life. Different people, different friendships. But I kept experiencing the same feeling, not being chosen. Wanting deeper connection and wondering why people didn't show up the way that I had hoped, the way that I had shown up for them. For a long time, I believed the pain was coming from them. Then I realized the feeling existed long before they ever arrived. They weren't creating it. They were activating something that had been waiting inside of me. That realization changed everything. Now let's look at Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman didn't keep walking back. Harriet Tubman escaped slavery. But here's what amazes me. She didn't spend the rest of her life replaying the trauma. She didn't dedicate her future to proving she deserved freedom. She accepted freedom and then became someone who created freedom for others. Imagine if every day she kept mentally living on a plantation, but she was physically free, mentally imprisoned. Many of us do exactly that. Our circumstances change, but our identity never does. We're still emotionally living in a place that we've already left. Ask yourself, what part of your life have you physically left behind, but mentally visit every day? Let's look to Eleanor Roosevelt and how she refused to let others define her. Eleanor Roosevelt endured years of criticism. She was mocked for her appearance. People questioned her intelligence. She lived in one of the most public positions imaginable. Imagine believing every cruel opinion people had about you. She could have spent her life trying to convince everyone she was enough. Instead, she became one of the most influential first ladies in history. One of her famous ideas was that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Whether or not every moment of your life reflects that perfectly isn't the point. The principle is powerful. When your worth depends on what other people think and other people's approval, they become the authors of your emotional life. But when your worth comes from within, their opinions become merely information, not identity. The story keeps repeating until it's rewritten. Imagine reading the same chapter every single night. Eventually, you'd memorize every sentence. Now imagine believing the book can never change. That's what many of us do emotionally. We wake up and read the same internal story. They always leave. I have to earn love. I'm never enough. I'm too much. People become actors, performing in the script they've already written. Not because they're all the same, but because our brain notices evidence that supports the story it already believes. This is why two people can experience the exact same event, and tell completely different stories about it. The event matters, but the interpretation shapes the future. Now let's look at the Japanese art of kintsugi. Kintsugi is one of my favorite metaphors. So when we think about kintsugi, it's when pottery breaks. They don't hide the cracks. They repair them with gold. The break becomes part of the beauty, not something to erase, something to honor. What if your pain wasn't proof that you were damaged? What if it became the very thing that made you compassionate, wise, patient, and capable of helping someone else heal? The goal isn't pretending that you were never hurt. It's becoming someone whose wounds no longer control the direction of their life. Final reflection. I want to leave you with 4 questions. And you don't have to rush them. Sit with them. Ask yourself, what pain keeps repeating? What story am I telling that keeps this pain alive? Who would I become if I stopped believing that story? What new story deserves my energy? Because here's what I've learned. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's remembering yourself differently. Not as someone who was abandoned, but someone who learned to never abandon themselves. Not someone who wasn't chosen, but someone who finally chooses themselves. Not someone who keeps reliving pain, but someone who now creates peace. If this message spoke to you, I want you to remember one thing this week. Every moment, you have an opportunity to tell a different story. Not one that's fake, not one that ignores reality, but one that allows your future to be bigger than your past. Because the story that you've been repeating got you here. The story you choose next can take you somewhere completely different. And do me a favor, if this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. You can just simply add a heart in the comments. Or share what resonated with you. And also send this message to someone that you know could benefit from it. Until next time, and keep loving life.